Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with me, Venus O'Hara. An orgasmic lifestyle is about reaching a climax in all areas of life, not just in the bedroom. Here, we dive deep with expert guests on topics like nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Together, we'll explore lifestyle lessons to help you lead a life that's fulfilling, joyful, and unapologetically orgasmic. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to episode 134 of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with Venus O'Hara. In this new moon episode, we discuss Kabbalah. We speak with Dr. Rachel Glik, who is a Kabbalah teacher. I also review the book The Gap and the Gain, The High Achiever's Guide to Happiness, Confidence and Success by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And the episode ends with a guided meditation with affirmations inspired by Kabbalistic life principles. But first, let me share with you how I discovered Kabbalah and how it is helping me. Let me share with you how I discovered Kabbalah and how it is helping me in my life. I've heard of Kabbalah before, maybe like you. I think of Kabbalah and I think of Madonna, and I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, even though I've been a Madonna fan all of my life. And something I admire about Madonna is how many times she has reinvented herself. But sometimes when something like a spiritual practice or spiritual modality gets some celebrity attention, it can be a good and a bad thing. Sometimes it can dilute it somehow. Not everyone is happy about such practices reaching the mainstream. That said, that's how I first heard of Kabbalah. And I think it's maybe similar to Sting's association with Tantra. It can maybe reach people that hadn't heard of it before, but it's not always a positive message. Sometimes when people think of Tantra, as we discussed with Layla Martin, a guest on here a couple of months ago, sometimes it's doing a disservice. People think of, 7-hour lovemaking sessions, which sounds a bit draining, and it's just certainly not for everyone. But it's not all about delaying orgasm or having no orgasm or extra long orgasms. That's a very limited view of it and not always correct. So about Kabbalah, I didn't really know too much about it. Only that it was Jewish mysticism, but that was about it really. I've seen the word around, even in reference to sex magic, the O method, which is something I'm so passionate about, which is also the subject of my latest book, Orgasmic Manifestation. But that said, it sparked some curiosity within me after speaking to Dr. Rachel Glik, and we decided to have another interview about Kabbalah, and she scheduled her time for May, and I had to actually cancel it because I was going to be in New York at the time we were supposed to speak. Because I was going to be in New York, she actually put me in contact with the Kabbalah Center in New York, and it was so amazing because I had such an incredible time there. I was invited to a session, and I was staying in Midtown, so I was 6 minutes away from the Kabbalah Center, and I received the most warm welcome. And I attended a session. It was an hour long, I think, and I just had this it was really illuminating for me. And I bought a book there called True Prosperity, which I've already mentioned on this podcast, and it was one of the highlights of my time in New York. And the book True Prosperity, I actually devoured it. It was, when you read a book and it's just such a page turner, that's kind of what it was like. When I came back to Barcelona, it was interesting because I mentioned this to an American friend who was almost offended by what I was saying, and he said that the Kabbalah wisdom or knowledge is something that's actually something that's very sacred, something that's very protected almost and hidden. And he didn't really approve of it being so mainstream now. And it's interesting because the reason why he doesn't like that is the reason why I do like it. So it gave me a lot to think about, a lot of food for thought on perspective. And also, I think from his perspective of what I was describing, it might have sounded like I was going all in on something that I just discovered. And I think that's it's good to have friends who show you your blind spots potentially, or to share a perspective with you that makes you question your own beliefs and actions. So I started to take a look at this, and I thought, am I going all in on something new? Because I do tend to be like that when I discover something new. I kind of like get very excited, but I don't think it is like that at all with the Kabbalah. I think it's just another way of looking at the world, and I don't really go. I don't kind of buy into any particular spiritual practice. I like to just expand my mind and my soul with different teachings, just to kind of make up my own mind at the end of the day, and just see what resonates. Not everything will, and that's okay. So it really sparked this curiosity within me to study more, but I also wanted to do it with an open mind, thanks to these comments of my friend, which were not entirely positive, but he actually apologized to me a week later, saying, I'm very sorry, I wasn't trying to discourage you, but it was something that he didn't really he didn't approve of, let's say, how things like Kabbalah becoming maybe so popular, so accessible, when it was something that was it was considered something to be not so accessible, and maybe that takes away how he sees it as something special potentially. But it's all it's a kind of it was confronting, let's say. But now I've read another book called The Power of Kabbalah, and it was really cool because I read it this summer at a time when I was going through lots of personal evolutions, shall I say, and intimate evolutions and happenings in my life. And it really helped me to stay grounded, especially a concept of, trying to not be reactive to situations and be proactive instead. So that kind of really was kind of helpful at a time that could have been a time of lots of reactivity on my behalf. So I really did find it helpful. And there are many concepts in Kabbalah that I do find helpful to my life. I'm just a beginner learning it. And now I'm watching a lot the David Guillaume podcast videos on YouTube while I'm having my lunch. And his podcast is amazing. And I think they're weekly episodes, and they're only about maybe 15 to 25 minutes, and he's talking about the energy of the week, and it's very empowering to listen to that type of content. Also, I recently started his course called Your Infinite Soul. I paid $1 or something to access. I think it's 20 something modules of videos, and it's just a nice way to spend my time at the end of the day, to watch before going to bed and get kind of grounded and centered in my own spiritual practice and empowered. So one of my favorite concepts that I've learned so far is certainty over logic, or certainty beyond logic, which is just fantastic. But as mentioned, my knowledge is limited, and it's something that I am definitely open to learning more and more about. So I'll leave it there for now, so we can discuss more with Dr. Rachel Glik, who is a Kabbalah teacher. And I hope you find this conversation as inspiring as I did. What if your pleasure was the portal to your power? My new book, Orgasmic Manifestation, Transform Your Life with Your Sexual Energy by Venus O'Hara, is your guide to using desire as a tool for abundance, purpose, and deep self-connection. Your orgasm is more than a moment. It's a message, a manifestation, a mirror of your limitless potential. Available now on Amazon. Link in the show notes below. Now it's time for this episode's interview. We speak with Dr. Rachel Glik, a Kabbalah teacher. Dr. Rachel Glik, welcome back to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. I think this is the first time I've had a guest on for the second time, so it's amazing. I'm so happy to speak to you. And for a bit of context, for those who maybe listened to the first episode we did, I interviewed you about your book, A Soulful Marriage, and we spoke about relationships, communication, frameworks, etc. And towards the end of our conversation, we talked about Kabbalah, and you planted a seed in my brain because I'm a spiritual seeker, so I wanted to find out more. And then you booked this second interview when I was actually going to be in New York, so I had to cancel it. And then you connected me with the Kabbalah Center in New York. And I've made a lot of content about my experience in the US. And I must say that has been one of the big highlights of my experience in New York. So I'm so grateful. And yeah, so thank you so much for this connection that you've made. I attended a session and now I have questions and a seed has been planted.
Fabulous. That's so exciting. Like two souls need to come together, like we were meant to meet each other and didn't even know exactly where else it was going to lead. But yeah.
Amazing. And also, I looked up the Kabbalah Center when I was in Midtown. It's a 6 minute walk from my hotel, so it couldn't be more convenient. Can you
It's
imagine?
amazing, right? I love it.
So when I
Yes.
got there, everyone was just so friendly to me. And then people on the
Mhm.
table I was sitting at knew me. And I can't remember which exact class it was, but I think it was Kabbalah level one, but I'm not sure which class it was. But it was really insightful and I was really taking notes. And then when I was leaving, I saw the bookshop and I'm a real reader. So I picked up this book, True Prosperity. Have you read
Oh,
this?
yes, absolutely.
So
I
so
have.
So then I took a flight from New York to Miami, and then I went from Miami to LA. So I just basically I devoured this book when I was on the
Mm.
plane. So that kind of planted a bit more seeds, a bit more context for me about Kabbalah and some of the concepts about certainty, about bread of shame, about the opponent, all of this. So when people think of Kabbalah, I think people think, oh, Madonna was into that in whatever year it was. So can you tell us a bit more about what exactly is the Kabbalah, or what is your role
Yeah.
in it? Mhm.
Yes, and Madonna is a student, of Kabbalah. So it's not a Madonna movement, so to speak, but Madonna happens to be one of the students. Yeah,
Yeah.
and which is beautiful. But yeah, so Kabbalah is an ancient spirituality. It's universal.
Hmm.
A lot of people think of it as a Jewish mysticism
Hmm.
because a lot of the Kabbalists were Jewish, but they're Christian Kabbalists as well, even
Oh,
popes who
wow.
have a copy of the Zohar, which is the major text of Kabbalah. And so it's an ancient spiritual wisdom, as the way the Kabbalah Center teaches it is that the universe is a perfect system of cause and effect.
Hmm.
And learning the kind of rules of this world and what our place is in it gives us so much power and context to make meaning out of what we're going through, but actually use everything we're experiencing for the sake of our own continued elevation and like our potential and our fulfillment.
Talking about your story, how did you discover Kabbalah and how has it transformed your life?
Mhm. It was very related to my marriage, in fact,
Mhm.
because, and I write about this in the book too, where my husband and I reached a place where I was feeling disconnected. I didn't feel this close connection as I had initially felt, and I deemed it, and we decided together that we needed to go deeper, that we
Mhm.
needed to start exploring, and we wanted to find a spirituality that we could both do together. So for about 15 years, we explored all different kinds of things, all different kinds of paths, all different kinds of seminars, mind, body, spirit things, and then and went through a lot of personal growth and bumps and revelations in that journey that we believe led us to discover Kabbalah. So some friends of ours were studying with the Kabbalah Center, and they saw one of the books on our shelf that had some like inkling that we would be interested, and so they shared with us um, a couple of books that were from the Kabbalah Center. I can show you what those two. I have the two
Oh,
books right here in my office.
yes. As a reader, I would love to know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let
I
me
need
quickly. I'll
something
go.
more
Yeah,
to read after this one.
yeah, no, I just had my hands on it like 2 seconds ago. Funny, like not related to this. And these were
It's all
these.
related, maybe. It's all
Of
related.
course, no. Literally, I brought this from home
Mhm.
today
Oh,
because I know
wow.
that there's clients. I'm in my home, my work, my office with my clients. These were the two books:
Oh, Power of
The Secret
Kabbalah.
by
And
Michael Berg, and then Power of Kabbalah: The Teachings of Rav Berg.
okay.
And And so this was the one that my husband and I read like, I don't know, 15, 20 pages. And I was like, I just like time stood still. It was so resonated with my soul. And then I handed it to him and I waited and to see what he thought because I just had no idea. And he was like, he closed the book and he said, now this I can do.
Oh,
And
wow.
then it became like that, it became our spiritual home. This was 20 years ago.
Hmm.
And so we really leaned into the wisdom to help our relationship, to help us parent our children with a sense of purpose and like, and it's just to this day, it's just a very fundamental guide for us close at home inside our relationship when we're dealing with a challenge, when we're starting to have an argument, or we really pull up the tools and remember the consciousness that comes from the wisdom that this is actually a good thing. We're here to grow. So, okay, let's welcome this conflict.
Okay.
So,
So is it, are you a Kabbalah teacher as well?
yes. So
Oh.
I started being active where I live in St. Louis. There was not a Kabbalah center. So I started getting very involved in leadership with the
Mm.
center to help create groups. And so then over a period of 5 to 7 years, then I went through multiple trainings and they asked if I would be a teacher. So I teach basic level stuff. The deeper stuff I like to count on the senior teachers for, but I teach that level one that you
Mm.
visited. I teach that level one course, and then I mentor and am involved with helping the teachers with curriculum and with mentoring groups of people from all over the world. So
Wow.
yes, I volunteer to do it. It's not my full-time job,
Uh,
but it is a fairly important part of the work that I do.
Amazing. So it's had lots of influence in your own life as well with
Yes. And then I
everything.
weave it into my therapy, with my therapy practice. It's very powerful, healing, like counterintuitive, often unexpected ideas and concepts and wisdoms that can help enhance people's healing individually from trauma, healing in their relationship. And there's really just no place that it doesn't shed light on.
So when you were actually, what was it about Kabbalah that was different from other modalities that made you think this is the one?
It's such a good question. I think it was really my soul. It just spoke
Mm.
to me. Like it just, like a Xanadu moment, like
Mm.
da da da, like it just like sparks. But some of the things that were in there were how important it is to really push and ask questions, how, how it's quantum. They use they use the word quantum, and
Okay.
it really blends. It's like really what the Rav, who is the one who, these are the teachings from Rav Bergen. This book, the whole thing is from. This is a person who brought with his wife the wisdom to become what it is today in terms of accessibility.
Mm.
But the science of it, he would call it like 35th century science. So
Wow.
it's really very much in line with what we're discovering more and more with science. So this idea of quantum, that if you do, we were struggling with one of our kids at the time we started studying. I think our daughter was maybe 12 at the time. And so the first thing the teacher said to us when we met personally about is you two work on your relationship and it'll be quantum. It'll help your daughter.
Okay.
And that like we had some connection with the gap we had between us, the areas where we were missing a sense of unity
Mm.
and we weren't growing enough. And if we were to be busy with focusing on our own personal and spiritual growth together, it would start to open gates for our daughter. And that just was like it just resonated with me, the quantum part. And I also, what really stood out to me was how instrumental the idea of our purpose, which is the second book, the
Okay.
secret. This what this whole book is about. I'm sort of giving away the secret, but
What's the actual tagline of it? The secret and
it says unlocking the source of joy and fulfillment. It's a different book than the secret that became a little
yeah,
more
yeah.
popular.
I
This
know.
one precedes it, and it's a wonderful little book that has lots of parables, but it's the idea is that we came to learn to share.
Mm.
And soul, we have a body and we have a soul. We have an ego and we have a soul part of us. We have two parts of us, and the soul has what's the most fulfilling for the soul is to become a being of sharing, of just adding value and imparting. And of course, we need to receive in order to refill our wellspring and not neglect ourselves at all. That's really important. But was drawn to the wisdom because I'd always felt like I could be doing more, and it helps push me. It helps push me to stretch myself to give more, and that just my soul's very happy about that.
So what does the word Kabbalah actually mean?
It means to receive. And
Okay.
that's the paradox is that kabel is the root word in Hebrew, which means to receive. And so it's like the path of how you learn to receive because we were created in order to receive
Mm.
source. And that's the perfect system of cause and effect. The cause is the source of all creation. They call it the light of they call it a creator or a source, but you can call it anything you want. It's just a universal beneficent intelligence, and that we are the effect of that source.
Hmm.
And so we are here to receive, and learn how to receive in a way that we receive everything that that source wants to give us. And so the paradoxes that often like to share is a really powerful way to receive if
Okay.
it's done in the right way, in particular.
Something a few things that stood out to me in my own journey because I was brought up Catholic, and I think it's the absolute opposite because Catholicism is about self erasure almost. You know, we are
Mhm.
sinners, and we're worthless, and everyone else is more. You know, it's about giving more than receiving, I think, and it's not about coming from a full cup. It's almost about sacrifice and being empty. You know, being emptying yourself out almost, and that's
Yeah.
very, you know, it's even though you know in your logical brain that's not quite right. It's hard to kind of negotiate with your with your brain sometimes about things and just try and make a reset. You know, so that's something that really stood out to me. It's very empowering. This thought of um, thinking that you're powerful and you have the right to receive, I suppose.
Absolutely.
And so
Yes. Go
and there are
ahead.
other things that kind of stood out to me in comparison with law of attraction. Something about the teacher that was there talked about the illusion of contentment, and I wrote that down. I thought that was very interesting because in law of attraction, it's all about gratitude for what you have before you get the rest. And not that you're not grateful, but I found that in the Kabbalah the meeting I went to, it was about asking for more. You know,
Mhm.
but this
Mhm.
is just so, you know, it's a big reset. So tell us about these different
Exactly.
concepts.
And that's one of the things that's just so invigorating, I find, in the wisdom is it's a constant set of resets.
Mm,
It's counterintuitive, and but often though it's really there's some truths that are in some of the other things that we have learned, but it just has not been put into proper balance. Because, for example, this idea of like the first point where you said this, like, not coming from a place of fullness to give, like
mm,
that's where it just needs to be tweaked. There's
mm,
paradox. All the truths are in paradox, and learning how to hold those paradoxes and being in two places at the same time allows you to maximize how the system of the universe works. And a lot of paths take it and then they get out of balance with it. It just is, it's not a full system. It's just cattywonk of one part of the system. So, for example, it is good to sacrifice and to give to others, but it has to be counterbalanced with this idea that we're already full, and that
mm,
we're already whole, and that we're already perfect and beautiful and valued beyond what we could ever imagine. We're a spark of the Creator. We're magnificence. We're a marvel. And so we often get riddled with guilt or riddled with like we're so bad, like, but it's about holding the space of there's a part of us that is whole and perfect and radiant and beautiful. And at the same time, we have an ego to protect us, which is a necessary part of the whole process and the system that is just teaches us or blocks our perception. And so
mm,
that's the part we need to transform, not our essence. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with any of us. We all belong here. We all are whole and perfect. So coming from that place of I want to give not because I'm bad and because I have to earn, or I have to earn my love or earn my worth. It's more of because I am so full, because I have so much to give, I'm only going to be fulfilled and
mm,
receive the blessings I'm meant to receive if I come from that place of fullness and shine that out and reveal that in the world. And it does mean you self-examine and you have to look at your negativity, of course, at your garbage, so to speak. But
mm,
it's always with the backdrop of self-love and
mm,
we're being loved constantly.
mm,
And and then the other part that you said about the being grateful and how do you
mm,
balance already being happy with what you have, but not being content.
mm.
And like with Kabbalah, it's like what is it? Always appreciative but never satisfied, kind of.
Okay, I love that.
Because the vessel, our desire, we learn a lot about desire, and I do talk about that in the book, but you
Mm.
study like the wisdom that just you get to appreciate the idea of desire and how much a gift that is if you have it.
That's another thing I wanted to make a comparison with law of attraction, because desire, you know, in law of attraction or wanting is about saying you don't have, and it's like attracts like. So that was a very different concept as well, because it was talking
Yeah.
about craving and real desire. So can you
Mhm.
tell us about that? Because it's
Yes. Again, it's going to be about balance in a lot
mm,
of paradox because you want to really want something, but also be aware that it's already manifested in the upper world. It's already
mm,
there, but you still need in this world, you have to do an action and awaken a vessel for it in Kabbalah. We call it Kli is in Hebrew, but it's a vessel.
mm,
And so it's, which is a feminine principle. It's a feminine energy to have, we need a vessel. So we need to be in two places at once where everything is already in some realm, and it's called the endless realm. All the solutions exist. All the blessings we ever need exist, but we're in this physical world. So to bridge
mm,
the two, then we need to have a desire in this world. But we want to
mm,
keep in mind to maximize the fulfillment of that is to also keep in mind not come from lack and be in a place where it's already there. So that's where it's, if you aren't being stretched to embrace the paradox of it,
mm,
only going to get half or a portion or some revelation of what the wisdom of the universe has to offer.
mm,
And that takes time. And like, it's hard to do the brain, it's hard for the brain to do paradox.
mm.
And with
So,
time, you start to be able to, like, after 20 years, I feel myself being like, I can hold them both better than I did before.
mm. There's a lot of resets happening here. So also, and the teacher talked about, the light doesn't coerce, so we must ask for what we want.
Mhm.
How can we ask? Do you have any kind of tips about how we can ask for the things we desire? I mean, how do you
Well,
do it in the Kabbalah way?
yes.
Mm,
So one of the things that is so unique also about the wisdom, like let's say, and there's nothing, I'm not nothing negative about law of attraction. It's all has good truths in it, but it only goes so far. So when you're asking, you want to ask also with the sense of perpetuity. Two
mm,
things. You want to realize that it's not going to be like forget thyself kind of thing, that it's only because I'm connected to the source
mm,
and it's not mine. We don't own that. We're just part of the totality. And the second thing is that we want to receive what we want to receive for us, but also so how we can be a being of sharing with it.
mm.
And that's where I think my understanding of the law of attraction or the secret is it's about receiving, but not necessarily that other part of the process and the
Giving.
part, and then so that you can receive more. So if you want to manifest, like in writing the book, I meditated before I would open my notebook or my computer, which is I want these words to be filled with the light and for it to then have perpetuity and continuity with who it's going to help so that they can help others and it's going to be going endlessly. Where it
Mm,
could have been about like, I need to accomplish this, I need to prove I'm worthy, I have this
mm,
information, I have to get it down. I tried to be aware, like, and I would ask for help. It was a desire, help me manifest this book, help me with what I should say, help me meet the right people to make it happen, but so that I can fulfill my soul's potential, which is going to be one of sharing, because that's all the soul wants to do. So if you link your desire with how, with an unlimited sense of the reach of it to help others as
mm,
well, then we receive more along the way. It's not to deprive us and skip over us. That's the difference with maybe some of the other belief systems, is that we are to be deprived. No, we're here to receive. We're here to enjoy, and we are better to enjoy all the physical things in life when we aren't so preoccupied with them, and we are
mm,
focused on how we can be a channel for sharing. Then, when you do eat that vegetable, or you eat, or you
mm.
have that sweet, or you have that nature view, or you have that kiss, or whatever you're doing, you are here to fully, fully enjoy it, and that brings pleasure to the cosmos.
Okay, cool. I love that. So I actually, another concept which was quite interesting was the opponent. Can you tell us about what's the opponent?
Yes.
And why do
So,
we need an opponent? What is the opponent?
yeah. So the opponent there's several different names for it, but um, it means like some sort of opposition, some sort of adversarial
Mm,
part of us that needs resetting. So
mm,
it's the part of us that's we call the ego. Also, is another word term for it, which is more of protective mechanisms, and
mm,
it's limited. The opponent is going to think the bad thoughts we have about ourselves or the negative view we have of somebody else, the conclusions we jump to, the fears that we have, the doubts that we have about ourselves and about life and our life. All those come from an opponent. And people aren't really an opponent, but they represent the energy that we need to oppose us at times in order to awaken our free will to choose to follow our soul's path and not our ego's drives. So, and one of the teachings in Kabbalah that was so also life altering was how this concept you mentioned of bread of shame.
Mm.
And to understand the opponent, it's helpful to understand bread of shame, which is that we don't like the feeling. It's an unpleasant feeling when we earn something, when we receive something we haven't earned, when we haven't put in effort. And it's like, because there's no vessel for it. And so it just, in fact, we can actually feel worse from it and less appreciative of the person maybe giving it to us or the source of where we receive. So when we have an opponent, it gives us a chance to taste transformation, that we have something to push us against us. So we can choose whether it's, I'm going to choose to go forward and share, even though I'm feeling like I don't have anything to give, or that I feel bad
Mm.
about myself, or I'm preoccupied and ruminating over this bad thing that's happening to me. An opponent will say, stay inside, focus on yourself, go to bed. Um, you're a nothing. Life isn't good for you. Versus the soul says, this is just an opportunity for you to go mind over matter.
Mm.
And whatever it is that you need to heal that's coming in that is being represented by something of a negative voice or a negative occurrence in your life is really just an opportunity here for you, and to heal it through sharing or heal it through being proactive. Like being anytime you're proactive, you're sharing. Proactive could mean that you're going to do something really good for yourself
Mm.
and not neglect yourself. That's also proactive and giving.
So it's making you more kind of refining your desire for the thing you want, I suppose, rather than having this straight kind of easy path. It's kind of like making you giving these obstacles are kind of making you will desire it more and maybe more have more I don't know, willpower to get it. Would you say that's right or something
Yeah,
like yeah?
exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, because the opponent will make us go
Mm.
for the instant gratification.
Okay.
It doesn't really think long term. So
Mm.
if you're upset with someone, the opponent will say that you have a right to yell at them,
Mm.
or you have a right. You should stay with someone because you're going to be alone forever. So don't. That means you're going to be alone. You may not find anybody else. So just stay with this person that's just mediocre for you, or not treating you well, or not fulfilling. Or it could say, just leave. It's getting too tough. Leave. Like, it's very customized. So
Mm.
what you said that really stood out to me was that there's two desires. There's the short-term desire and there's the long-term desire. And the soul
Mm.
thinks long-term. It has patient, that part of us is patient, has perspective.
Mm.
Whereas the opponent or the ego is more coming from fear, more coming from, I need to not feel this discomfort. I got to get rid of it now. And
Mm.
so, really, the part of the spiritual journey is really learning to be comfortable and embrace the discomfort. And if
Yeah,
we can, yeah, go
it's,
ahead.
it's like transmuting the negative voice, which I think is super empowering because we all have the negative voice.
Yes. And you
Mm.
kind of treat it like like a gorilla that's in the room. You don't want to I see you. I'm aware that you're there. You're saying all these negative things and you're having me come up with what we describe kind of as like a movie. It happened to me over the weekend. Created this whole movie and I decided not to respond to it. I just watched it like a gorilla over there.
Mm.
And then in that way, then it opens the gates for you to then put your energy elsewhere. And then you'll gain clarity to see that was actually just an illusion. That really wasn't true.
So
So
let's do
yes, a lot about having more power over your consciousness, to have your consciousness become stronger than your feelings.
let's get juicy then. How can we use these tools to get more money and more love? Start with money.
Okay, so with money, there's some beautiful teachings on
Yeah.
the Kabbalah.com website
Mhm.
about prosperity. There's a woman, Batia Solomon, who teaches a weekly class called Prosperity Principles.
Oh, I love
And
it. Mm.
really well attended class, and there's a really strong group. And there's another teacher in London, Marcus Weston, who specializes. He's a teacher who specializes in prosperity. So
Mhm.
that's where I receive my guidance from.
Uh-huh.
But a couple of the concepts that are unique that I've learned through Kabbalah, and maybe they're not unique, they're universal, but I've learned them through Kabbalah and haven't seen them anywhere else, is to first appreciate this abundance idea that it's all that we were talking about earlier, that it's already there. It's a matter of us tapping into the wellspring
Mhm.
that's available to us and not operating from that perspective of lack, and then also appreciating that the humility that it's not mine anyway.
Mm.
Because there's this paradox where the opponent or the ego will whatever we've earned, even if it's our own hard work, we just feel entitled in a sense that it's us. And when we realize that we're just part of a kind of recipients to this flow of energy that exists, and it's not ours, then it puts up less barriers between us and that abundance because our ego creates walls, or they call them klipot, which are shells between us and blessings, any blessings, health, sustenance, close relationships, sense of purpose, inner peace, all the things that we want. It's our opponent, our ego, that creates a shell around our capacity to enter into the realm of where the blessings exist. It's like parallel universes.
Mm.
The abundance is there. We just need to transform ourselves to tap into the realm where the abundance exists.
How can we tap into that realm?
Um, when it comes to money, it's good to explore what your blocks are with money.
Uh-huh.
Where first is where to remove those blocks, and then the idea is to connect to the continuity, that really letting go of it being mine, and that more I'm just like to ask this higher intelligence to use me with where you want me to be. And when we surrender that, then we can tap more into that flow. And of course, you need to do everything in the physical world to, go out of your comfort zone and do things to make things happen. You can't just expect it to. A lot of times, people who have success, you would want what they have, but you don't want to do what they had to do to get there. So
Mm.
it's also the willingness to be persistent, and that, and how we can tap into abundance as well is to transformation. Like, that's when I said just a second ago, we need to look at what's blocking us. Maybe there's some of the things that I hear when I teach some of these classes, or I mentor a group, is that they might not feel, some people don't feel worthy of it. They don't see themselves as somebody who, they feel guilty to have it, or they feel shame to have it, or it was never a concept growing up that they felt that they deserved it. And so
Mm.
that would be an example of a block.
Mm.
And so then you want to remove that block. Some people have a block where they want it, they want the money, but they have another competing desire that's more important than the manifestation of some kind of success. For example, they don't want to be too vulnerable by, what if they fail? So it's a
Mm.
fear. So
Mm.
then it might block someone from going further with what they might need to do. I felt that with writing the book. Like, it took me so many years to really get stronger than my fears about it. And I wouldn't have been quite clear about that in the middle of the process. I had all these justified reasons why I wasn't sure if I was going to do it. But when I really listened to the quiet and to that honest voice inside, in part it was because wasn't sure if I was scared of all the effort I was going to have to put in, because I know what it would take once you get started.
Mm.
So it's overcoming the comfort zone, going out of one's comfort zone, and then also being willing to reframe failure. First of all, there's no such thing as failure. It's just, you just put yourself out there and let go of the outcome. It's about the
Mm.
transformation that's most important.
Would you think it would be a good empowering, or to kind of consider money as like a loan from the bank of the light?
100%. That's all
Yeah.
it is. Everything we have
Yeah.
is on loan. Our body is on loan.
Yeah.
We have a child. That child is just on loan. We're just a steward. They're
Yeah.
not ours. Getting rid
Yeah.
of the hours. I love what you just said about the loan. It's
Mhm.
on
Okay, amazing.
loan.
So, another thing I just before we get into love, because love is super juicy. The
Mhm.
bread of shame thing really I found really interesting because I know so many women. I'm a real I would consider myself to be a feminist, and someone who advocates for financial independence for women especially. But we're in an era now, of sugar babies, or people wanting easy life, or trad wives, or even so lots of very educated women who want to choose the rich guy to pay for them.
Mhm.
And I just think I even say to all of my friends, sometimes we have kind of clashes, but this is not the way to go. You always must have your own money. And I just saw the bread of shame. I just thought it was so interesting, about earning some, or receiving without earning. So,
Yes. Well, there's so much in Kabbalah when you get deeper in it about the flow of the masculine and the feminine energy. We both
mm,
have masculine and feminine within us.
mm,
There's masculine and feminine between us.
mm,
Um, and so what I have learned that was so helpful about becoming more empowered as a woman through Kabbalah is this idea of earnership, in
Mm,
part, not necessarily. Each person's soul has a unique purpose. For some, it may be to manifest and be successful financially.
mm,
Um, but the idea would be, or it could be, that a person who decides that they want to make a difference outside the home in a different way by becoming involved with stray animals or children who need coats, or it doesn't matter. But in some ways, I personally, I'll just say honestly,
mm,
I think it's important to be able to be financially independent, is
mm.
potentially, because then you're in the relationship, not because you're dependent, but you're always it's always a choice versus I have no other choice but to be with this person. So
Absolutely.
that's a side note. I just think that just makes sense. And
Mm,
at the same time, there are women who aren't necessarily earning, quote, money, but they're earning energy. They're
mm,
doing something outside the home, in addition
mm,
to in the home,
mm,
where they are feeling like a unique, individuated person out in the world. And
mm,
that is really good for a family. It's good for a relationship and good for them.
mm,
So whether it's monetized or not, I think it's going to depend on the person and their unique, what's called tikkun, or their unique karma and their unique path. But I do think it's important to for everyone's fulfillment that we all need to earn that what we're
mm,
worthy as we are at the same time in this physical world in order to tap into all those blessings. We can't unless we are putting in some kind of effort and stretching ourselves and growing and getting outside of ourselves,
mm.
inside the home, inside our family, and outside.
Okay, so how can I use Kabbalah to find love?
Well, the first step with that is to become, in addition to my book, another book I recommend is Monica Berg has a book called, and she's the co-director of the Kabbalah Center, called Rethink Love.
Okay.
And
Mm,
she emphasizes this. I mention it in my book too, because Pillar One is all about our relationship with ourself.
mm,
But I think the way she describes it is coming to my mind when you ask that question.
mm,
So that's what came to mind to share the book idea. But that we want to first be, because she says you want to, her byline is be the one,
mm,
find the one, become one. So the first step is you want to be the soulmate you're looking for, so to speak. Work on your own transformation first.
mm,
And and then also look for, which is going to be in part by looking at where you have blocks, where you have fears, where you are afraid to be vulnerable, where you don't believe enough in yourself and you're looking for somebody to be your source too much. You're too much of your North Star, where you're
'Cause that's in your other book about we talked about that in the last interview about the need, the confusion of love and need.
need and love. Yes,
Mm,
exactly. And I do talk about that too. And much of what's in the book, majority of what's in the book, is from what I learned at the Kabbalah Center and how I blend that with traditional marriage and psychotherapy. But the need versus love, it's a paradox again. You need to be
mm,
vulnerable,
mm,
and take the risk to let someone in. But there's also a sense of really knowing your worth so that have really good boundaries and you know what you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept. And
mm,
that way and as you transform, you're going to attract different people in your life. So with every relationship, none of them are failures if they don't work out. They're just here to teach us something. What did I learn? I don't know if you want to do that yourself, but
mm,
in whatever last relationship whatever we were just in, let's say,
mm,
or version of a relationship you're currently in, you want to look at and see, where is it that is showing me where my growth is,
mm,
where my opponent is showing up, my blockages. And then when you do something that goes against them. So if you're afraid of opening up, just let go of the outcome and open up. Or if you're um, feeling like you're too dependent on somebody to define your worth, then resist the urge to check your phone to see if the date is going to call you back.
mm.
You literally physically do things that go against the belief system that you're trying to overcome.
Yeah, I'm on that journey right now. I'm actually creating a coaching modality called the 8 pillars of self-love because I've
Oh,
noticed that that's my own. Because I mean, some of those pillars include things like self-compassion, self-care, self-respect, and it's my own journey. And I'm actually doing it on myself, and I'm actually practicing on some people before I'm going to be offering it to the world. And I just think this is so important because it also does affect, money and love, like the way we price our services, that really is definitely related to self-love, and so is our relationships. And I do think everything is a mirror. And the last relationship I had was, I would say, was a massive learning thing. There's so many lessons there for me, even though it ended quite badly, and it's kind of traumatic to some degree right now. But I know there's a real opportunity there, so I'm just taking every opportunity right now to gain clarification on what I want, clarity, and just healing the wounds, and also owning what I brought to the table. Because I think a lot of people, there's too much blame on the other person when people have a traumatic, breakup or relationship, where we have to think, what was I attracting? So I'm kind of like facing myself in that
Oh,
sense.
it's so inspiring.
Yeah.
And you're living so many of the teachings.
Mm,
Example, like you're turning darkness into light. You're
mm,
choosing to take whatever was painful and
mm,
use it for your own elevation, and then also how you can help others going through the same thing. And
exactly.
that's it. That's just, and then it, it's kind of like I used to write poetry. I
Mm,
do sometimes, but not as much anymore. And I noticed that when I would write, I would turn even the dark things into art. And all of a sudden it felt like light. And so it's kind of like living that with our own lives. And
mm.
I love that eight pillared
8 pillars of
course.
love. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so
Mm,
that's it. That's what, looking, examining what the growth areas are and what's creating the blockage and then opening
mm.
them up.
Amazing.
A
So,
lot of times people who like the mirror, like I think in my book I call it the mirror mindset,
mm,
that we want to see where is it that we are treating ourselves the way somebody was treating us.
yeah.
Even if it's a crumb of it,
Mm,
that not only then because we attract things so that it shows us it's a perfect system of cause and effect. We're here to remove those barriers. And so this friendly universe we're in will bring us people who will show us. But it's like we have it's not we don't get it spoon fed to us. We have to be willing to look past the five senses and the
mm.
and the opponent's natural inclination, which is to blame, which is to see this problem is with the mirror, not with the person looking in the mirror or the thoughts of the person looking in the mirror.
This morning I was so inspired. I wrote this article for Substack, which is really, I feel so inspired on that platform. And I had this really vivid dream that I was looking after a little girl who was sick, and I feel alive when I'm nurturing someone. I just love that, not just like seeing if they're comfortable and well fed and warm, but also I can read faces, like the emotions, and kind of tap into those things. And there's part of me thinking, do I regret not having children because I have all this nurturing energy to give? And then I realized I was the little girl. That was me. So,
Mm.
the empath, this is the era of after being in something, a toxic or narcissistic relationship. Sometimes the empath is wanting to give when you're
Yep.
not kind of giving to yourself. And that's
Yes.
kind of the thing I'm doing. So I am nurturing my inner child right now. That was the kind of conclusion that I came to
Love that.
just this morning. I was like this really vivid dream. So yeah, it's kind of a big journey to
That's really
yeah.
beautiful. And that's
Yeah.
so spiritual. It's not
Mhm.
it's so balanced.
Yeah.
According to the system of Kabbalah, like you can't neglect yourself. You won't have anything then to offer to anyone else
Mm,
when we are neglecting yourself. It's written in the sages that I
mm,
just was studying this about 4 or 5 days ago,
mm,
that they even use the word neglect, that it's when the biggest way you help others is really to have extreme what they called egoism, which is,
mm,
at its pure form is not making sure that you're not self-neglecting.
mm,
And then from there, though, using that for the sake of how you can turn that into how you share ultimately more with your community.
definitely. So what
Yeah.
what resources would you recommend for people who are curious or about this?
Yes, well, the Kabbalah.com, Kabbalah.com is like the wellspring. It's the beginning point.
Mm,
And that you can do a variety of things. You can have a membership on Kabbalah.com, like as a
mm,
monthly, and then you have access to anything that you'd be curious about and interested in, ranging from astrology to relationships to finances to parenting, to teens to, I mean, it's the gamut of everything in life. And then there are these introductory courses that either called Kabbalah One that you can get through, you can get them on demand on Kabbalah.com.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you can also, there's a course that's offered, a global course on Zoom called Limitless. There's Limitless 1, and we're just about to start Limitless 2. And then I think in October is going to be Limitless 1 starting again. And I think it's going to be a really big one. Um, and then there's some, so you can, those are ways to explore. People can always reach out to me if they're curious. I'd be happy to help you find like an entry point of where, if you'd like to learn more. And then there's a couple podcasts, Michael and Monica Berg, who are some of the authors I've mentioned, and they're the co-directors. They have a podcast called Spiritually Hungry.
That's the thing. There was a sign outside the Kabbalah center.
Yes,
I saw that. I took a picture of it. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
and it's fabulous. And they've done they're on like 200 and something in terms of the numbers of how they've done them. And so that's a really good one. And then there's another one called Weekly Energy Boost
Okay.
that talks about the weekly. Each week has a different energy, so it's relatively introductory, but it talks about what's happening in each week, how you can capitalize on the week, and then they're both great. And so those are some other options as well.
Amazing. So, which book do you recommend? I mentioned earlier. I have read
Yes.
Prosperity, How to Have
Uh-huh.
Everything. What's the next one you recommend for me as a next book?
I think the Power of Kabbalah, but
Okay.
specifically from the teachings of Rav Berg,
Mm-hmm.
be a good next one.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, that's kind of an overview of some of these concepts. But then,
Okay.
go with what you use your intuition. If something,
Yeah.
look at, there's a bookstore on Kabbalah.com that you can pick and order, or on Amazon. But, this is where you can tell the books that they've written. And if something speaks to you, then you can, then I would go with that.
Amazing.
Um,
There's a friend of my co-working said something called The Wave. You know this one?
yes, I have it right here.
Is that good?
Yes, that's excellent.
Okay. Is
That's
that better than Power
my
of Kabbalah?
Michael. Yeah. That one, this one's this one I describe as a little bit more sweet and soft, for lack of a
Uh-huh.
better word. I can't explain it. I
Okay.
just things in
Okay.
weird ways. This one is a little bit more like building blocks.
Okay. We'll go for Power of
Little,
Kabbalah. Good name.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
building blocks a little bit more logical, scientific, and
Mm-hmm.
this one is just a little softer, more explanational.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's a softer read for, I don't know if those are the right adjectives. They're both
Okay.
great.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
It's super inspiring. It's been amazing connecting with you again, and I'm super grateful for everything you helped me with in New York, even though we've never met. But hopefully, I'll meet you
I
one day.
know. I'm so grateful, and I would love to stay connected. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, hopefully I'll be back in New York. I met someone there. She's like, "Come back here for your birthday." I met some really cool people that I'm actually connecting with now on Instagram. So
Yes.
yeah.
That's great. The community is a huge
Mm,
part of it. And it's inherent in the design. It's like
mm,
the friendliness, the love you feeling is because that's how you really live the teachings is in our
mm,
relationships. So
absolutely.
it's not like the people just happen to gather because they want the same kind of things. Yes, that's also
Mm,
true, but it's how you actually create community and
mm.
create loving relationships that helps you embody the wisdom.
Yeah, and this girl, she actually gave me her Zohar. I was like, oh, wow, isn't this
Yes, yes,
amazing?
yeah, exactly. And that's where all the
Amazing.
teachings come from. And I have this
Yeah.
where we met, I just opened to a page. And this is like, there's are
Yeah.
23 volumes of
Oh,
texts.
wow. Uh-huh.
They're very cryptic. It's really hard to,
Yeah.
so the teachers unpack the
Hmm.
poetry, the lessons that are embedded in here.
Hmm.
And so it's a way to, it's a metaphysical tool. It's not just the teachings are in there. It's a metaphysical tool that is a direct energy of that endless light that has
Hmm.
all of our blessings. So the Zohar
Amazing.
is giving you. Yeah.
So where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, which is
Mm,
drrachelglik.com, drrachelglik.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and
mm,
Instagram.
mm.
Um,
Amazing.
and and the books, my book can be found on Amazon or Barnes and Noble and some
Mm.
local places too.
Amazing. So your book, A Soulful Marriage, for those, yeah, who haven't heard the first episode. Well, thank you so much. It's been amazing connecting with
Oh,
you
it's been my
again. And I'm looking forward
pleasure.
to my own Kabbalah journey. I'm super
Yeah,
inspired.
great. Great. Yeah, all the best.
Thanks.
The book I'm reading now is The Gap and the Gain, The High Achiever's Guide to Happiness, Confidence and Success by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I was recommended this book by a future podcast guest. I wanted to pick her brains after our interview and just ask some questions about abundance and manifestation. Because I find that sometimes when I am meeting friends and discussing these topics, or even in my own mind, that I'm thinking about my dreams or my dream life is happening at a time in the future. And I want to bring that energy to now. Why am I not in that energy now? How can I close the gap? So she suggested reading this book because the gap and the gain refers to when you're, for example, in the gap, you're kind of envisioning your ideal self and really looking at the gap between your current self and your ideal self. Whereas in the gain, you're looking at where your current self and you're comparing to your past, what you started out doing, and you're focusing on your achievements rather than the gap of where you are and where you want to be. I think many of us are guilty of, comparing ourselves with others as well as our ideal selves, and that can be very frustrating. At the end of the day, we're thinking, I didn't do enough. I'm not doing enough. You're looking at what everyone else is doing, and it's just never enough. And I would invite you to change this perception. Sometimes I give you an example about a lot of success that we see. For example, if you use LinkedIn, you'll see lots of people saying, I'm beyond excited that now I have this amazing achievement. And it can be really great to see other people do well, but it can make us think, I'm not doing enough. I need to do more. And that's putting us into the gap. Especially, I think sometimes for me personally, I know I can do more. So it's kind of hard for me to get out of that way of thinking, because I know I could be better in terms of strategy, consistency, and just time management, really basic things, just getting stuff done really, and having a vision, a bigger mindset, a bigger thinking, let's say. But yeah, that can be very frustrating. But there is a fantastic affirmation by Florence Scovel Shinn, who was a writer from the New Thought movement. And she used to give people affirmation prescriptions. People used to go to her and say, I have this issue or this goal. Can you give me an affirmation? And one of her affirmations for such situations would be, what God has done for others, he can do for me and more. It's something like that. That's not exactly the right words, the correct words, but that's the idea. And when we see others do well, it's really nice to think, oh, wow, that is possible. And just be happy to be around people who have that success. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to be the cleverest person in the room or the most successful. It's always good to be in spaces where the people around us have what we want, and we can aspire to be like them. And there's a kind of growth, or maybe a gap in a positive way. And I think about this podcast, for example, many guests who've been on here have gone on to much bigger podcasts, such as Diary of a CEO, or even that Lisa Bellieu, I can't remember how to say her name, and even television. So some of our guests have done so well, even Dr. Phil, and other big media outlets and programs, etc., all around the world. And when I see that, I think, wow, oh my God, all these people have been so close to me. And also I see other podcasts, people that I know who are in the sexuality or personal development space, and they start to do really, really well. And I think, wow, I was near them, or I started out kind of near them, and look where they are now. So I find that really, really inspiring. But also I think sometimes, I think about all of the incredible guests I have on here and the incredible audience, and I think, wow, I want to have more success. I want to have a bigger audience. And that can be a little bit frustrating sometimes. But looking back, it's been 4 years now since this podcast started. And I know now that I've grown so much in this time in terms of being a podcaster, an interviewer. At first, I wasn't, I had a really bad resting face. I've learned that the hard way through the videos when someone was speaking. And I had to learn how to not speak over someone, to interrupt, to ask another question. And also, I was actually working with an agency, and they used to give me the questions. So that was great to have someone do that for you. But often when you have a list of questions for someone, it doesn't always follow the direction of the interview. It can feel a bit kind of jumping from one topic to another. And over time, I think sometimes when it was a topic that I knew about as well, I wanted to get my kind of opinion in there. And now I've learned to shut up about that. That's what this monologue part
or not monologue part, but not this particularly. That's what I'd kind of do before the interview, so I can get my stance on whatever subject it is out there, and not have that cloud the interview. Because I know that sometimes when I've been doing research on people, I don't often do this, but if I'm looking up a potential guest and I look at another podcast interview that they've done, and the host, who I don't know, is going on about their perspective on a certain situation, I'm like, shut up, I want to get to the actual guest. This is why I'm watching. So I try and, really make it all about the guest. And I've really improved my listening skills over time. And now I don't actually prepare any questions anymore. I leave it down to natural curiosity. And it's really funny because in every single interview on here lately over the last year and a half or so, the guests say, that's a really good question. And I'm thinking, there was zero preparation for this, but I'm super flattered that someone thought it was a really good question. So that's really cool. Yeah, so I have to, I have a lot of plans for this podcast in terms of future sponsorships and growth, but I'm resisting things like, I have a lot of agencies trying to give me, sell me downloads, which I would never do. I'm all about being authentic, so it doesn't really make sense to try and promote this in a way that's inauthentic and not really allowed, kind of thing. So I never, also, I'm going to ask you something now, if you're listening, if you're a regular listener. I never do this normally, but if you could, if you enjoy this podcast, if you could leave me hopefully a 5-star review and a nice review, that would really help me a lot. I never usually ask for follows or likes or subscribes or anything like that on my other content, because I don't know, maybe I'm a bit shy about asking. And I think if people want to, they know how to do it, kind of thing. But I am going to ask now if because that would really, really help me. And I really want to start, getting more downloads and generating more revenue with this podcast, so I can kind of reinvest in it and help it grow. Because I do have some people helping me, but there's a lot to do, and I would like to do even more because this is really my passion, is the topics we speak about on here. And now we're doing sexuality just on full moons now, and then the other two, the new moon and the first quarter, is usually a personal development, relationships, or spirituality topic. And then we have guided visualizations on the third quarter moon, and those always kind of follow what's the theme in my life at the time. And also those meditations will be available on Insight Timer several months after they appear on here. So yes, I'm really trying to so everything I talk about here is basically, they are the topics that I'm interested in, and also the books I'm reading, etc. So it's kind of following my own interests, and also I think that the topic of sexuality is just way more powerful when it is diluted among other topics that are related to lifestyle, because it's all about the orgasmic lifestyle is about reaching a climax in all areas of life. And I think something like the gap and the gain is definitely key in terms of life optimization. And I had a really big download last night, because sometimes I have this inner narrative of, I'm not doing enough, or I could do more, we can always do more. But just the other day, actually, I reached out to someone who was going to be a potential client. A few years ago, we were talking in 2022, I think it was. And I've just seen this company, who I won't name, just grow so much that they're just huge now, that they're collaborating with some really big influencers and thought leaders in the sexual wellness space. And I want to be part of it, considering that I was there right at the beginning in talks with them. And I reached out to the CEO of this company, and I said, "Oh, congratulations on your success. I've also been very busy," and I listed all the things I've done since 2022. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy. I've published another book in Spanish. I've been on the Howard Stern show. I've been on Apple News. What else? Bustle, Grazia UK. Launched this podcast. There's a lot of things that have happened." And I thought, yeah, that's great. I need to kind of remind myself of that sometimes, of all the things that one has achieved. And I think it's about just doing all you can in one day without, sacrificing your health or your personal life. I think it's all about balance at the end of the day.
and just doing what's important, I suppose. So getting out of that gap energy of comparison, of not enoughness, and really getting into that gain and gratitude of how far you've come, and just being proud of yourself, of where you are, and acknowledging that what you have today is probably a dream for you a few years ago. So that's a super indicator of happiness. And I've started to think about that myself now. And it's interesting because I read a lot of books on personal development, as you know, if you listen to this podcast. But just last night in meditation, I actually fully embodied the message of this book. And it felt so, so empowering, to the point where my inner narrative is starting to shift to gain energy as opposed to gap. And I would invite you to do the same. You don't have to read the book if you don't want to, but really try and focus on everything you've achieved rather than thinking about what you don't have yet. Anyway, that is The Gap and the Gain, The High Achiever's Guide to Happiness, Confidence and Success by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Now it's time for this episode's meditation. Please don't listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I am aligned with divine light and infinite wisdom. I am a vessel of compassion, love, and mercy. I am balanced in mind, body, and spirit. I am open to the flow of divine abundance. I am grounded in strength, courage, and faith. I am guided by truth, clarity, and insight in all decisions. I am a channel for healing and transformation. I am in harmony with the energy of the universe. I am radiant with love, joy, and gratitude. I am patient, trusting in divine timing. I am open to spiritual growth and conscious evolution. I am a reflection of divine beauty and light. I am guided by intuition, insight, and higher understanding. I am aware of the sacred in every moment and every being. I am free from fear, doubt, and limitation. I am co-creating with the universe in alignment with the divine plan. I am grateful for the infinite blessings flowing into my life. I am patient, compassionate, and wise in my interactions. I am a beacon of light, bringing clarity and peace wherever I go. I am aligned with tikkun, repairing and healing myself and the world. I am open to the divine flow of guidance, insight, and inspiration. I am strengthened by divine love and unwavering faith. I am attuned to the sacred rhythm of life and the cycles of growth. I am a vessel for divine energy, radiating light and wisdom. I am connected to the infinite source, guided by purpose and intention. I am anchored in inner peace, joy, and spiritual clarity. I am embracing my divine potential and fulfilling my soul's mission. I am guided by the wisdom of my higher self in every moment. I am open to miracles, synchronicities, and divine alignment in my life. I am a living expression of balance, harmony, and spiritual light. I am transforming challenges into opportunities for growth and healing. I am committed to inner tikkun, bringing love, light, and repair to all I touch. I am connected to the infinite web of life, understanding the sacred in all. I am empowered by faith, guided by truth, and aligned with divine purpose. I am constantly evolving, expanding, and deepening my spiritual awareness. I am immersed in divine love, light, and infinite possibility. I am grateful for the lessons, growth, and blessings of each day. I am living in alignment with the sacred flow of the universe. If you enjoy the affirmations and meditations I share here, you will love the longer versions I've created on Insight Timer, the world's #1 meditation app, available in the App Store and on Google Play. Every Friday, I release a brand new guided practice on topics like love, health, wealth, motivation, abundance, and many more things, all designed to help you relax, recharge, and realign. Just search for Venus O'Hara on Insight Timer or follow the link in the show notes. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram. The Orgasmic Lifestyle is also on Substack and YouTube, where you can watch all the interviews with our experts. All the links are in the show notes below. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere podcasts are found. And click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.